Hey, good morning, everyone. Good afternoon, good evening, whenever you're going to catch this rewind. I am a little too dressed up for this little episode today, but I wanted to try out something new that I've been kind of going over for the past few, oh gosh, like year or so. Kind of gone into the grading element of video games and wanted to show you some kind of unique video games that I've been on the hunt for, just kind of found out in the past few weeks or so, and wanted to put out like a market report, just like we do for comic books. I don't know if I'll do a Pokemon segment at all, and I'm kind of concentrating on two specific genres of the hobby, and that's obviously video games and comic books. So I hope you guys enjoy this little snippet of comic book market report for May 2nd, 2024. Going into the summer here, I think we'll see a little bit of a bump in prices. I don't know if there's necessarily a bottom or just people either leaving the hobby and comic books in general, but video games is a very interesting segment. I think it has a lot more staying power with, different generations and how different, you know, how different groups of people gravitate more towards video games nowadays versus comic books or just reading. You spend a lot more time trying to beat that level or play with your friends on hours on end, up at late at night. I don't think I've ever lost sleep trying to read a comic book. So that's kind of why I wanted to get into this and show, just go into some pretty major video games that people probably know, and then more kind of niche segments with horror, just short print video games that maybe people never heard of. And it's going to hit every single generation, system, what have you. So I hope you guys enjoy this list. Without further ado, let us get into it real quick. And then we'll just kind of take a look at what eBay's looking at too, as well as we always do. And yeah, I guess hope you guys enjoy the show. I want to thank everyone for subscribing, subbing, and we're at 624. We gained quite a bit of followers or subscribers this week. So keep hitting that like button. Let me know if you guys like this content. I'll keep doing it as much as I can. And yeah, we'll do the live show on Sunday. Hope to see y'all there. Okay, without further ado, let's look at this market report. One of the reasons I started this show with Pickles is we spent hours on end with playing this game, Final Fantasy VII, my favorite game of all time. The remake has done pretty well for the newer generations, and I think kids more gravitate towards those online games, that community, but I think there's still a market for collectible video games. I think it's just going to grow. With these new systems putting out like reprints or just remakes, what have you, whatever you want to call it. I think this is just a really important segment to look into. And I think there's more opportunity versus comic books. Honestly, I feel there's a bigger kind of like growth sector in this market. But without further ado, let's get into it. So I'm going to start off this series with the greatest game of all time, in my opinion, Final Fantasy VII. But we're looking at the greatest hits version. I was talking to Nemesis Prime about this, and I was like, what's with the error version? I see their error version CIB go for like 165 or higher, and literally it's just a misprint. It's a very small misprint. It's probably on hundreds, if not thousands, of different games, and I don't really consider that to me like, oh man, that takes me back, or that's worth an extra $100 to spend on a video game. But collectors do value it in a different way. Personally, I don't. But in regards to the one I wanted to look at was the Final Fantasy VII Greatest Hits version. So I guess you could call this the second print, third print, fourth print, what have you. It's got that green label. This is, it just kind of took me back to where, like, that was my version of Final Fantasy VII. So I'm looking more kind of arbitrary towards, something that brings me back versus what the collectors are looking at. And let's take a look here. So 130, that's pretty high. I don't think I'd pay that much for one. This guy's asking $299.95. 8.0 goes for 400. That's kind of a bummer. And then the CIB, I think I'd just go for an OG, like if I was going CIB. But let's look at the solds. So I did see Final Fantasy VII Greatest Hits sealed. I did see a graded. So yeah, I mean, you're getting I mean, it's a $4,500 difference between this and a 9.8 and the greatest hits, which I'll show you guys right here. So 475, 498. I mean, like, to me, just thinking about collectability and price point, I would go with the greatest hits version. Yes, it's a later print. It's kind of like in a UF4 second print, but to me, 500 bucks versus 4 grand, I'll do this all day. I'll just go for the second place one. It's just a lot of money to spend on a game, but if you got the extra 4,500 or so, I mean, go for it, I guess. But yeah, 9.8 asking for 499 above. Maybe offer 375 to 350 if you're, kind of trying to haggle. But I think that's fair. The game came out, wow, almost 30 years ago. So yeah. All right. Adventures of Sly Cooper. Now, I found about this book, or sorry, this video game because of the comic book that came out. I can't remember who shared it, but someone had a graded version 9.8 of the comic book, and I was like, huh. And in the description, they stated that it's actually a video game. So PS2 sealed, good luck. I couldn't find any. Again, super rare comic book. I tried to tie to it. Someone's asking $6.99 for a sealed copy. So let's see. So Adventures of Sly Cooper. Adventures of Sly Cooper. Okay, so that's the well, if you're looking for the comic book, there you go. But sealed video game. So $29.95 for the sealed version. Greatest hits. Now this is the PlayStation 3 version. I wasn't looking for that one in particular, but it looks like, I mean, trying to find not that version. It's really a ghost. It was really hard to try and find sales of this sealed. Maybe if we look not sealed, PS2. Okay, so $24.97. That's actually pretty good. $23.99 for CIB. I didn't know a lot about this game at all. I think it's very short print. It's on PlayStation 2, so it's kind of weird, or I would say it's kind of risky to get those CIBs for now, but let's see. Sly Cooper. Yeah, it's just really hard to find a sealed copy of this. And let me see if that $600 sale is still going up. Let's see here. Huh. Well, that's a tough one. So as you can tell, if you can find a sealed copy for cheap, it might be worth a shot. Maybe pay $100 for it. There's just really no market for it right now as far as sealed copies are concerned. But man, if that's the truth, you might want to get a sealed copy, send it to CGC and flip it. Maybe get 3 times your money just because there's no real market for it right now. But yeah, I mean, like as you can tell, I can't find it. So pretty interesting stuff and something to look out for. But just kind of give you guys ideas of what type of stuff you should be looking at, or just maybe you find it like in an obscure video game store, and let's see what happens. Okay, one of my favorites, Metal Gear Solid 3, Snake Eater. I think they're remaking this game for PS5, which is why I highlighted it. But last sealed copy I saw went for $100. I feel like this is the one everyone wants. I personally like the PS3 Metal Gear Solid 4 version, which is like the last main story one. I think if you could find this copy with very little scratches, sealed, that's a nice get it like 9.0, 9.2, sell it for like 200. That's a nice flip, in my opinion. Like I said, the remake's in development, but I haven't really heard anything a lot in the past few months. But let's take a look at the market. You're solid. 3 sealed. Okay, so I'm looking at a sealed version. Okay, this guy wants 30 grand for that. He's basically saying this is the greatest game of all time. Okay, here's a sealed version, $99.99. And so let's take a look more of what I look for. This is kind of a bad picture because you can't see all corners. But if it's PS2, I want to see that seal, like a little silver deal. I want to see the sticker on top there. That's a really easy indicator that this is not like a reseal here. It seems like there's a ton of scratches on here. I'd want to take off that price tag. So to me, that already takes 10 bucks off because it's going to take some work to get that off, or you got to pay, you got to pay CGC to take it off. The fact that I can't see the back of this, I don't think I'm going to bid on this, but let's see. Let's try and find another one. Okay. So like this one's a 9.6, which is a really high grade. So as you can see, like right here, like look, you can kind of tell there's a little bit of rippling there, but I mean that's fine for an older video game. Make sure the corners are like all clean and there's no dents in the corners. You'll get dinged for that. Wada does a pretty good job. I prefer CGC personally, but no hate on Wada. I just like CGC better. But yeah, maybe one day we'll get into kind of like, what do you look for when you purchase like a sealed game? Just because it's sealed doesn't mean it's going to get a 9.8. I recently submitted a PS5 Final Fantasy VII remake video game, and I got 9.0. I was really disappointed. Then I took a look at it. Actually had my boy Nemesis Prime take a look at it, and he showed me, yeah, there's a couple dents on each corner. There was a scratch, like a tiny scratch on the front. It wasn't flawless for sure, but it's not easy to get 9.8 in these games, guys. So I still feel there's a market for like even 9.2s, 9.0s, because there's so much fandom with these properties that people are just going to want a sealed one to put up and display and take a look at it. So this is a very obscure game. I've never even heard of this game, but I was looking for Resident Evil books. Resident Evil Gaiden, Game Boy, color. This game alone, and I'm talking about literally just the game alone, goes for, excuse me, 77 bucks just for the Game Boy case. A sealed version or CIB goes for 550 to 1,000. It's super freaking rare, man. And I'll just show you. I mean, like, I don't even know what this game's about. I should have done more research on it. Game Boy Color. Resident Evil Gaiden. Okay. So yeah, look, 185 bucks just for the game. This must be the Japanese version because the one I see mostly is not listed here. Oh, okay, this guy. So let's click on this. Now I'm curious. Is this just the box? It's the game only. Okay, see, I mean, this is like, it's just crazy how like I never heard of this game before, and it's super expensive. Okay, here's one. I mean, look how clean this is, though. It's a CIB. I mean, like, yeah, there's a corner ding here, but like, I mean, it's so crazy. This video game, market, it just moves, man. Leon, Lucia, Barry. I don't know who Barry is. So it looks like it's kind of like in between Resident Evil 2 and 3. I mean, like, get this, press it. Maybe get 1K if you can get like an 8.5 or higher. But that's pretty cool, man. I like obscure, video games. That's why it's so fun to kind of peruse through this video game market. But yeah, Resident Evil Gaiden. I've never heard of this before. Tell your friends, and good luck for trying to get this, particular video game for cheap, because it does not come cheap. I mean, I think people are playing, they're buying this game to play it. I mean, I've never bought like a standalone like game without anything else before, but man, that's pretty cool. So we're about 15 minutes into this show, this episode of the Video Game Market Report. I want to thank all my subscribers for tuning in, checking this out. Hit that like button, hit subscribe. If I get 200 views on this, I will give away a video game, a PlayStation 4. No, I'll give away a PS5 sealed video game just for the fun of it. Need 200 views. We're trying to get to that unattainable 3,000 hour watch market. It just seems so tough, but hopefully we'll get there with more content and with your guys' support. So thanks for subscribing. Thanks for liking this show. Without further ado, let's get into the next one. So this is kind of cool. Shantae Game Boy Color. What the hell is this game? When I found this game, and I don't even know how I found it, I was confused. I've never heard of this game. Of course, Game Boy Color was like I was on my PlayStation 1 arcade phase. So I am just so lost on any Game Boy game. Game Boy Color game, I should say. The game itself alone, okay, again, the game itself alone goes for $660. Now watch out, there's a 2021 version that is a reprint and it is very much less. However, it goes for like 150 to 200. Let's take a look at the market. Like I was just shocked when I looked at the market. Box, manual, and cartridge. Now this is CIB asking for 3,400. 1,500 from the Philippines. Mabuhay. Shantae 700. See, it's just crazy. I can't fathom it. 8.0 CIB is asking for $3,000. 1,009. I mean, these are ridiculous prices, but I mean 2002. So you got to think kids that are probably born in the early 90s or like even the mid 90s played this game. So it kind of hits that genre of people with money. Wow, a 9.4 rare sealed 14,000. And see, this is the collector's edition, which is, I mean, it's obvious, right? It just doesn't look real. But it's getting some bids. So let's take a look at the sold. So 649, see? $600. I don't see any CIB at all. It's just the reprint from a while back. Game. Oh man, they took it apart. That's kind of weird. But yeah, man, people are not giving this game up. That's pretty cool. When I was researching like what the game entails, it looks basically just like an RPG with this character. But man, like that was a deep dive. This is probably my favorite game of the Market Report today. So yeah, Shantae, Game Boy Color version. Good luck. And I'm sure you guys know this game, obviously. Legend of Zelda SNES, A Link to the Past. I would say this is a close second to my favorite game of all time. I know people on different podcasts have talked about this game being their favorite. It's a consistent seller. You know, it's always going to be liquid as far as like a collectible. But man, I wouldn't mind just having this for myself and just getting it framed up in a CIB. I've seen, you know, anywhere from 250 to 300 on a CIB. And the 8.5 best offer got hit at $500, right? Which I thought was a steal. I'm not even gonna look at sealed versions of this game because it's just too much. But I wonder what Legend of Zelda. Legend of Zelda. Oh, Link to the Past. So yeah, $35, tested, free, and I'm sure you can find this game anywhere. Here's another thing: if you can like piece together parts of this game, CIB, and then seal it, it might be a better value. And then if you can find like a really beat up copy of the manual and press it, I pressed a couple manuals before just to see the difference. They don't press as clean as comic books. There's tons of color break on them, so it's not super easy. But like this guy, he's just selling the box. I mean, you could press it if it's pressable. You can press boxes. I pressed a Nintendo 64 box and it came out a 7.5, and it was not a 7.5 for sure. This is the Japanese version. CIB, I think that's a great steal, man. Like you could press this out, you know, send this over to Red Hood or Chunky. $300 for I mean that's probably the going rate for the CIB. I've gone into video game stores, they're asking for like a 400 for this video game. There's the gold version. That's pretty cool. Is that I have to research more about the gold cartridge. I forgot there was one. You know, obviously this is going to hurt your overall grade if it's CIB, but for $10, it's, you know, it's I think it's worth a shot. I would not buy this. Wow, that one's beat up. But yeah, I think us millennial Gen X's played the crap out of this game. So, yeah, Legend of Zelda SNES, Link to the Past. Good luck. It's really liquid, and I wanted to present a video game that people probably know. You guys know how much of a fan I am of Sonic. I've actually never played the games on PlayStation. I played them on Genesis, but never on PlayStation. But this is Shadow on PlayStation. I feel like Seal is the way to go with this. It's Shadow the Hedgehog. You know, pair this up with that Sonic 98 comic book that is eluding my collection. I couldn't find any graded items, unfortunately, so you might be first to market if you are trying to grade this. Sonic PS2 sealed. Okay, and I'm looking at Shadow. Okay, so this is the only one that's sold, and that's sealed, right? So if you look at the CIB copies, they're only going for like 20 bucks, and I don't think that's a good play. Like, I'd rather buy an SNES cartridge and try and flip that if you're flipping. But so if you can find a sealed, I mean, the sealed copies they're not around. So, and Sonic fans are crazy, and it's Shadow. So I think of this as like, oh, dude, pair this up with like your Sonic 98 or any of your Sonic comic books that are Shadow. The movie's coming out. Seems like a pretty good pairing. And yeah, we'll go on to the next one. Michael Baker, Spawn PS1 video game, PlayStation 1 sealed. A 9 went for 330 bucks. Spawn fans, where are you at? You're paying too much attention to unsigned comic books. You guys need to pay more attention to the Spawn stuff. The PlayStation 2 sealed version is rare. I cannot find a copy of it. But let's Spawn PlayStation 2. Okay. That's Armageddon. Sorry, it's PlayStation 1. My bad. PS1. Okay, so tested. I mean, that's a sick cover too, man. What if you could get this signed by Mr. Todd himself? Send that in. Oh, that'd be so sick. Screw signing comic books. Get this signed by Todd McFarlane. That's pretty cool. And like the cover art is so sick. I mean, look at that. Let's look for a sealed version. 24. Okay, these are last sold. So let's take a look at not sold. Let's do highest priced. Wow, $699.95. Okay. Come on. Somebody. It's a chromium cover? I did not know that. Oh my god, I want this. Dude. Okay, I'm putting this in the Discord. Trying to do some multitasking here, everybody. Video games. All right. The fact that it's chromium makes me want this even more. But yeah, pretty cool stuff. All right, cool. So Spawn PS1 video game. That is my last kind of presentation for this presentation. So yeah, I think that was pretty fun. You know, the video game segment, I'm gravitating a lot more towards video games versus comic books in general, just for my own delight. It is kind of pricey. The fact though that CGC does it, they do cleans for 10 bucks. It's about 35 bucks a game to grade them. However, it's really hard to get a 9.8, so there's still value in those 9.0s. You know, obviously from the market report we just did there, I mean, we saw some 8.5s go for, you know, triple figures. I don't know a modern comic book that goes for that much, but it's still a very untapped segment. But I feel like there's more money that's being invested into video games versus comic books, at least lately. And there's a little bit more rarity, and you can find good deals. Like, I mean, just from what we were looking at, like, you got to think an average, you know, brand new video games like 59 bucks or 65 or what have you. With the onset of how digital is now kind of taking over, I mean, it's like 90% of all current video games are digital downloads. Physical media is obviously going down as the years go by, and it's really hitting. It's not so much hitting comic books as much as I thought it was going to. It's hitting video games and DVDs and what have you. But the video game segment, I feel, is just more of a loyal fan base. They're gonna want it just to have it, and the fact that you can grade it and display it and kind of pitch it that way, I think it's just a better way to go, and it's a little more healthy of a market, in my opinion. But that's the show for today. Please hit that like button. We'll do more of these. We'll have a show on Sunday for comic books, but yeah, I just want to do something fun and different for video games. I hope you guys like the show. Tell your friends. We're trying to get to that elusive 3,000 hour mark, and I'll keep doing this stuff. You have a great day.